was just literally 5 minutes, and if the tech works, there we are, giving you a quick overview on some recent developments in the ICO market. So most of us are familiar with this chart that really breaks down the exponential growth that we've seen in 2017 in the ICO market, just in terms of US dollar raised by ICOs, creating a very serious competitor for the VC industry. So this is based on a paper that I've recently done, where I'm looked at the percentage of, by country specific, so by country, which country has raised how much in terms of ICOs, of the global ICOs that we've seen. Unsurprisingly, total percent of world ICOs, we see the United States leading very clearly before the United Kingdom, the Russian Federation, and Switzerland. However, if we're just looking at the percent of the top 25 funds raised, we're looking at Switzerland with arguably the highest quality ICOs leading the charge here, even in front of the United States. Now, if you contrast this with percentage of world ICOs versus percentage of top 25 funds, we see a very clear picture emerging in favor of Switzerland. Many of you who've had exposure to Switzerland, however, know that they're completely backlogged right now in terms of setting up foundations for purposes of running ICOs. So given that that's happening, we've seen a lot of other countries, Singapore having been sort of lockstep with Switzerland in many ways, we see a lot of other countries now getting very competitive in this space. Slovenia, Gibraltar, there are various other options, Georgia among others, where the respective governments are very, very aggressive in terms of trying to set up schemes that facilitate quick and easy access for ICOs. Yeah. So if you just look at funds raised, overall, I think the United States and Switzerland are dominant worldwide, very clearly, followed by Eastern Europe and China, together with Australia. Now, many of you know this particular chart that breaks down the top ICOs by country. So we're looking at Europe with Tezos, the DAO as a not state-bound ICO, arguably. Filecoin here in North America with 257 million. And in Asia, we have various Dash, Comsa, 10x, among various others. But again, the overall trend that we see, exponential growth in the ICO market. Now, many of you wonder if this is a bubble. And when we take audience questions, we're happy to talk about it. Some very prominent people are arguing, including Nobel laureates that are otherwise not involved in crypto, are arguing that this is a very serious bubble. The crypto purists will take a different perspective, and I think we have some folks here, I know Vlad has a different perspective on this, that will illuminate how purists are seeing this. So, level of regulation. What are countries doing in the top 25? Again, this is based on a recent paper that I published 2 weeks ago. So, what are the respective jurisdictions in those top 25 ICO countries, if you want? What are they doing? So overwhelmingly, we see some level of light regulation in those top countries. I think Greg will take some perspectives on what the SEC is doing or not doing in the United States in this context, and hopefully we'll get some more guidance this year. Now, what are those regulations addressing? Well, it really ranges from regulating ICOs itself, regulating cryptocurrencies, regulating the underlying technology, setting up compliance programs, focusing purely on centralized exchanges where the government still has access and control rights, yeah, other than decentralized exchanges where that is getting much more complicated. Yeah. So in my estimation, we will see a slow migration to decentralized exchanges. So we're talking Ether, Delta, and others, yeah, because they're not subject to those restrictions. But we can discuss that. Yeah. There's some issues with this in terms of liquidity and so forth that we're still seeing predominantly provided by centralized exchanges. So what the regulation addresses, unsurprisingly, Germany has the highest level of overall regulation in this realm. In the United States, we're somewhere in between, at least to my coding for these types of regulations. So what I've done is I've only used primary resources, meaning original government-issued guidance on regulation of the ICO space. So this slide really shows only primary sources pertaining to ICO regulations. And I promised you I would go through it very quickly, so let's keep moving. Level of regulation overall, no surprise, China in dark red. Yeah? So for those of us who've had exposure, I just had several meetings with Chinese crypto funds representatives. It's now getting to the level of the investors. It used to be restrictions on ICOs. We are now seeing actual investors being subjected to restrictions in China as well. Who knows where this is going? If people have perspectives on this, I'd love to talk about it more. So just to give us an outlook quickly, so in 2017, 445 ICO raised 5.4 billion. This is token data. That's an average of 12 million per ICO. It's pretty significant. 9 to 12 million is plenty, I would say, to fund any startup. And it's a lot more than the average traditional first round that we would see in these startups. So maybe we're adding something here that is valuable. And of course, people have different perspectives on this. But however, 5.4 billion is also less than 1% of the 600 billion, now way over 600 billion market cap. So the questions for 2018 in my mind could be, are we now producing another 5 billion in ICOs for this year? If so, that would be quite significant for those companies that are doing an ICO.